could be easily fixed. But if it isn't, we could easily have, nuclear exchange of third world war dimensions,
Yeah. Mhm.
and that wouldn't be good for anybody.
Exactly.
Not even for the morons who think
It
it
would
would be
not.
good for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's that. We got that out of the way. So on the bigger picture of your spiritual flourishing, how you doing?
Okay. Well, um, I'm to find that losing things and tumbling down hills isn't always a bad thing.
Right, it's always a bad thing. Exactly. I've spent my whole life doing that. Yep.
Yeah. And there's a quote from that Catherine, the series about Catherine the Great, where she says she's asked a question. I think her husband or whatever, he's like, well, what do you do when you fall down into a stream and it's taking you down? And he's just like, there's nothing you can do. And she's like, well, I just resist the the urge to fight it, and I just float to the surface and let it take me where I need to be. And that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment, because yesterday Jeff was puking all day and there was a bit of blood in it. So I take him to the vet, and the vet tells me that he has 3 major medical conditions, and he has an enlarged heart, and he has strings hanging off his heart. He has sacs of fluid in his lungs, in his abdomen, around his heart, and it wasn't looking good, basically. And so I either had the option to put him down, or to try and drain the fluid and put him on a better diet and medication, and hope for the best, basically. But basically the vet said it's just not looking good, and if I do hope for the best, there's a likelihood that I'm just prolonging his extreme suffering.
Right, exactly.
So but you know me, the second I hear there's a chance, I latch on to that chance. My hope is my everything. So I was like, okay, let's put him through the surgery. Let's try it, because I'm not going to put him down right away. I'm at least going to try for another 24 hours for him. I'm going to at least see what I can do. I'll monitor him. And so the vet was like, all right. And the vet told me I was making the right decision. He thought I was making the right decision. So that's what they did. They drained almost 3 liters of fluid out of his body.
Holy moly!
Yeah, and he's a little doggy,
Yeah,
so
right.
I had no idea. I thought he was just gaining.
Yep.
So he's still underweight, and he never even gained weight, which is incredible to me because I've been feeding him constantly.
Right.
But anyway, he's doing a lot better now. I just have him. I mean, yesterday I was an absolute wreck. I haven't cried in probably like 6 months. So I was crying all day yesterday, and I was just terrified to lose him, and the pain, it's, the guilt and the confusion. Am I doing the right thing? Am I the monster? Have I not, have I mistreated him? All these things are going through my head. And, should I fight for him, or should I let it be? Is he in pain? All of those questions. And so I just decided, I picked him up for after surgery. He was very groggy. We spent the night and all morning sleeping, like I was cuddling him and holding his head up because he has trouble breathing when he sleeps. And then he's sleeping now. He's all right now. He's fine. And basically, I just have to monitor him. I got medication for him, and I have to put him on a specific diet. He shouldn't have food that has no grain, and that's the exact food my mom is feeding the dogs. So I don't think that helped at all. And I really believe diet is at least 70% of animals, including humans, issues. So he's been through a lot of stress. So I'm just going to monitor him for the next few days and see, because the vet said if the fluid comes back into his body, then we have a problem.
Right.
then it's just going to be a cycle of surgery and money and pain for
Right.
him. So, but if the fluid doesn't come back fast and the medication and the diet seems to be working, there is a slight chance that he can get
Yep.
better and even live for another few months, maybe even few years, So
How old is
that's
Jeff
what
now?
I'm kind of rooting for at the moment.
How old is
He's
Jeff?
5.
He's 5. So his breed
Mhm.
is almost bred to be compromised. I mean, the way his
Yeah,
lungs and nose and head and all those things
exactly.
give him, it knocks him down by 30%. Where if he was a mutt kind of dog, a lab, and a this and a that, he'd have no problem. But because of his breed,
Yep.
he's got issues, and he will always have issues.
Yeah.
And the one thing
Mhm.
that I see that you and he are together inextricably is that you're almost the same thing. You're of a breed that has got issues,
Yeah.
So that's why you are together.
Oh yeah, I'm a highly sensitive breed.
Yep. Yes. Right. But just
But I'm
go on.
sorry.
No, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the thing though is I'm also a breed that I kind of go around things. I avoid things. I happen to get really lucky in many scenarios.
But you're really learning to navigate. And Jeff is like
Yeah.
the garbage man. He picks up all of the flotsam and jetsam of your emotional state and internalizes it.
Mhm.
And so you need to sit down with Jeff and say, okay, Jeff, you can't do this. You got to stop being that hero dog. You need to be comrade dog. I need you around,
Yeah.
not as hero dog, but
Mhm.
as comrade dog. And if he can get
Yeah,
that into
exactly.
his head, he'll do okay. If he's not, if he's going to continue to be hero dog, not going to be good.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Well, we already do struggle at night for his breathing. I mean, at night, it breaks my heart. He just cannot, he cannot breathe, and he
right,
can't really play properly with the dogs either because of his state. But it's at the end of the day, I feel his duty is to be with me, and he lives for food. Like there's so
right.
many other positives in his life. So I don't want to just start looking at all the downsides and be like, well, if he can't have a dog's life, then what's the point?
But he has to be a comrade dog and not the hero dog. Oops, we lose you. Oh, we lose you, girl. Are you there? Reconnecting. Well, we dropped out there. And connecting. Saved. It's only saving, it's not connecting. Oh. But I'm still with you. Well, that was my comrades. Oh. Anyway, so 10 minutes, 11 minutes. What can I say? Let's see. And we got pretty good. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Oh. Talk about good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei Al Bob. Welcome to the show. And we got a little bit of internet here. See what. Connected. Yep. Anyway, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei Al Bob. I am he. And we are all together. I was just talking to one of my friends, and she was just going on about her life, and that's life. This, that, and the other thing, right? Weather, family, ones you love, right? And how you let go. And she was going, falling down is bringing her to the realization that why do we fall down? So we can get back up, right? So we have larger scale falling downs right in front of us. And, in our national politic, the Supreme Court is about ready to get rid of abortion, right? And the bottom line is that when they do that, if you read the outline brief that was being prepared to get rid of abortion in America, basically says, oh, it's going to go back to the states. And I don't even know how to, it's not Republicans, the folk, Donald Trump is not a Republican, Lindsey Graham, not a Republican, Mitch McConnell, not, these guys are just all about themselves and their individual power, right? The guy who so much wants to be, the Speaker of the House, it's just, and Nancy Pelosi, she's not a Democrat. She doesn't care. All she cares about her chocolate ice cream, and her that she's in power, right? And if you felt anything for the Ukrainian people, you would not be supporting this war, right? This war is about whole other things, right? It's about destroying Russia. It's about destroying the United States. It's about destroying the EU and China. and leaving basically a number of other states as global leaders, ones that you wouldn't think, like Japan. Now, they're the third largest economy in the world, and we don't really talk about them much, right? And because they're so polite. But, China goes, oh, we're going to be number one in AI and robots. Well, they still have robots that, got wheels on them like ours. Our robots look like Robot from Danger, Danger, Will Robinson, meaning we are, whereas the Japanese, they have robots that look just like human beings. You can't tell a difference, that are totally functional, as Data would say. And, you know, um, they are on a deeper understanding of what's going on, right? And we don't have a clue, right? We are, set aside over issues that don't really matter, and we're going at it. Now, my friend is just talking. When we lost the internet on that phone there. I'm out in the middle of the woods again. Thank you for the four people who and this month hasn't been good for everyone. Only two people were able to. The other said, "Oh, I'm really hurting for money. I can't, spend the send you the $12 I normally do." Now there are folks watching the show who have a lot more money than that. You could send your Sensei Al Bob, and I could really use it. Meaning, look what I'm having to use to see, and I soon won't. And I can't go to the doctor on, I have X amount of gas. That's it. Till I get some more money. I have no more money. At least not right this second. I have like, I don't know, $15, $20, $40 maybe, and that's it. You know. And so I would really, really ask you, come on. You know. After the day is done, maybe 20 or you kind of watch this show every day. Maybe some more. And after by a month, somewhere between 70 and 30 people have watched the show. When you go back and you look, you see pretty much, and as time goes by, they get more and more, right? And so I've been talking about the big splat, right? And the big splat is here for all of us, right? And whether you're prepared for it or not is really the difference. And so I say, I really, no, I got spoiled. I lived here for 18 years, and it was my nature preserve. It was really beautiful and calm and all of the above. But um, now the rich people are coming in, and they are just ripping and tearing, and without any regard um, for what was going on, or what is going on, or what the roads are, or what's what. And and so that's what I'm talking about, right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, baby. I'm out in the woods, and I'm like hanging off a tree, off my neighbor's Wi-Fi. So that's where what happened. So yeah, I can hear you. And so
No worries.
now we're kind of on the live chat, and you're my new guest, Lois Lane, star reporter and boyfriend of the superhero, or girlfriend of the superhero.
Howdy.
and so I was saying that we were talking, not we, but the other L was talking, Lana, about the loss of her friend, and that it's like a family member and someone even closer, and you're there. They're not gone yet, but you're thinking about the mortality of it, and what life is about, and the struggle, and that you and I, in a lot of ways, have the same kind of we have a number of the same skill sets that we can navigate around catastrophe, and we're always
Yes.
kind of served another plate of catastrophe to see how well we're going to do. And I don't know
Yeah, that's right.
who gave us that contract, but I mean, we do have other, things that make up for it. Our ability to truly appreciate what's going on, and living our life in a way that is valuable to us and to others around us. So yeah. So what do you think of what I just said?
Of what you just said?
Yeah. How does that make you feel? How do you respond? And with the context of, like they're about to get rid of abortion, which will then legally allow them to get rid of, like I said, women's rights, gay rights, anybody's rights, unless you're a white male that owns property.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could say it's a perfect storm. I mean, I don't think it's ever as bad as it seems. My heart goes out to, the people affected by this, definitely. But I have a lot of faith in society that maybe all of this pushback has got to make people realize that, okay, maybe we should change some things because this is ridiculous. And more people will hopefully take action and speak up, and I have faith in all that. So, I mean, never as bad as it seems,
Right.
And what I mean by that is,
yes,
we can get through the storm easier than we realize. Instead of fighting it, we can go with that.
And also make it better. That's really the the real issue. It's like it's time for us to stand up and make it better. And even if we have been doing that, it's time to I don't know, double our effort. I don't know, but to be more conscious, aware of our effort. I think that's really we don't have to
to care more.
Right.
I think people, what I missed, in fact, what I was doing yesterday, because yesterday was such a tough day for me with my dog and everything. I realized that people just do not care. Well, it seemed that way. It seemed that, like, because I've made new friends recently, and I've been trying to practice learning new languages, and so I've talked to people from all around the world, and I just felt so low yesterday. So that feeling, on top of some of the things that have happened to occur, I was starting to think people just do not care. Where we don't even talk about kindness. When people talk about being better, doing better, I hardly hear people talk about being kind and being nice to other people and caring about other people. And I was talking to one of my friends, and who's younger, who just can feeling. And here he is spiraling down into depression. And here I am begging him to talk to me about it. And he physically cannot do it. And it's just so sad. It's like, here I am trying to help you, and you just do not care about yourself, and you don't even, that's one of the things I feel like maybe people are going to start to care more, little by little. Hopefully.
But as you said, until they can care about themselves, it's almost impossible to care about anybody else.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And it seems the only emotion that is most easily brought about is anger and fear.
Oh, yeah. Well, people get triggered, and I've come to find that, people live in this state of anger and pain without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so hard for so many people to talk about themselves and their feelings, is because they don't realize that they're hurting much more than they think. And then they have a breakdown, and they say that they don't know why. That's because they're living in pain and they're accepting it. And And that's exactly the state that the world is in. It's an acceptance of this pain, like, oh, that's the way the world is.
Yep.
This has happened before, I'm not surprised. And I think hopefully people are going to stop accepting that kind of pain.
And Ukraine is a perfect, amazing example, because it's not like, oh, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and the Arab Spring, because those were all in one place, and they were kind of all mushed in together. Whereas this is like right up there, right amongst everybody, but all by itself, and it can be seen very clearly. You can see all the reasons why politically and geopolitically it's happening. And the real easiest thing to serve this is if Joe Biden, right? He's the guy. And I think that's why they made him president, because he's brain dead. He can't even see this. He's just, doing what's on the script. But if he were to say, okay, I want to give $30 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine to immobilize the Russians and beat them back. But right now, they already have $250 billion worth of weapons. We've given them enough stuff to harass the Russians enough so the Russians can't just blow through the place, right? They've shown that they can't. So why don't we all stop shooting right here, right now? And why don't we all go to, Paris or someplace that's, not going to get blown up? And, Vlad, you come, I'll come, the guy who's president, a stand-up comedian, his name is Vlad too. It's the war of the two Vlads. And come and let us see if we could, there was this thing in 2014 where they kind of were at the, but not as bloody. And they made an agreement, and we never lived up to it, And if we could just go back to where we were in 2014, we could ally all of this. And it's right there. It's real clear. And then spend the rest of the time healing the difference between Ukraine, Russia, and the rest of the world, so we could all get along. That could be a great bridge to a new world order of peace and not catastrophe. And if we don't, it's just gonna get worse. Because, as my teacher always said, don't worry about it. It can always be worse.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So. Well, there's always been these types of things going on. I think just because I don't know. I don't even want to put race into it, but I feel like, this has always been going on in different parts of the world, but now that it's happening and it can affect America and Europe, then I think now more people are talking about it. But I don't see why any leader would do an attack on the rest of the world and create another world war. I mean, obviously, I don't see why anyone would do any kind of war, but it just doesn't make any sense to me why they would try to threaten the rest of the world or have another, something catastrophe, like a big catastrophe like that. But me, I don't like to talk politics, to be honest. Right, so I just feel like it's not as horrible as it sounds. It's not as bad as it seems. I feel like there will be a point where it starts to calm down. Unfortunately, Ukraine has lost most of its country and the people have left, but it doesn't always it gets worse before it gets better sometimes, so.
Well, let us here and now, you and I and everyone who's on the cadre, because people have come aboard, let us all pray. Let us, why don't you go into your heart of Hearts, Lois Lane, and pick up a prayer. I mean, not like, I mean, I'll start it off with the Our Father because everyone knows that. You don't say it, but play it in your heart, and then bring forth from your heart the feelings of a prayer because you're so good at manifesting, a manifesting image of world peace. So, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us those who trespass against us, and us who trespass against us, them, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be. And in every day and every way we can serve love's co-creation. And what do you have to say, Miss Bell? Nope. Nope. We lost her. The internet keeps bopping in and out. So how about you guys? What do you got to say?
Hello.
Yep, you bopped out. So what do you have to say of that manifesting image of world peace?
Yeah, of the manifesting image.
Yeah. You're one of the better manifestors I know.
I like the idea of letting go of the need to control the outcome, letting go of the need to control people's perceptions, and letting go of the need to control what we think things should be, and even how things should be fixed. And just try and be kinder to ourselves, our neighbors, and have faith in the matter. And that doesn't mean just sit around and do nothing. In fact, I think that does so much more than what we were doing before. There's so much power in being kind and trying to enjoy your life. So I think that if we are what we want the world to be, I think that's one of the best routes towards that image.
Yep. Being all, and being all you can be, being this change you want to see in the world around you, to in every day and every way be conscious of your intent and your awareness, and serving love's co-creation by being nice to everybody around you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So.
Yep. And I found over the past few days,
were to have I mean, there's one group. There are a number of group of people who, if they said, "Screw this, I'm going to spend all this energy and money now," and people listen to me. I'm going to start to talk about peace and love, and that's what the Beatles did, and they did their best, and they were four different guys, so they kind of went in four different directions, but what they experienced as the Beatles really affected them for the rest of their life,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what John Lennon tried to go out like first he tried just to be a dad in New York City for 10 years, and his wife was the breadwinner. I mean, he was still clipping his coupons, but that's all he did. He just hung out with friends, made a little bit of music, and but brought up his kid. And then things went sideways, and he said, I got to get back in this. And he started making really, the Double Fantasy album was like, and so they said, okay, we got to get rid of this guy. So he was a sacrificial lamb. And George, he was the guy who was most like Jesus. He didn't really want to be the one taking control and being the voice. And he was that's when he wrote some of his greatest songs, and was a great power of love and insight and spirit. And so that was and then he kind of went died, and Paul is living forever, and so is Ringo, and they're doing their thing. But they basically put this really interesting stamp on the human experience, and there's still a lot. Two of them are still alive doing it in their own way. So K-pop could definitely do that, and there are other people who could. They came together to be a collective of peace and love. Boy. Because other people
and it's so powerful.
Yeah. And that's why you and I do what we do, because we are the artists in the first person, and and we have our own voice, but it's more on the one-to-one kind of motif. Me talking to you, you talking to me, you talking to somebody else, me talking to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that has a place in itself, and if it is meant to go bigger than that, then it will. And all we have to do is keep doing it. We don't really have to, because there are other levels of energy, that by you writing and I writing and we do what we do, even if it doesn't go zippity doo dah, it still has a shamanic energetic that helps.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always noticed throughout my life the ripple effect of the smallest things, and the smallest leaf can fall from the tree and create the biggest ripples, in the water. And I've noticed ever since I was a kid, I'd say something and I'd notice someone else saying it, and without even realizing it, or my mom repeating it, or my mom being like, "Yeah, I remember when you told me this when you were 5," and I was like, "I told you that," and it stayed with her. And and she's a teacher, so imagine she's had thousands of kids that she's helped, and who knows, there could have been something I've said that she's repeated, and then it's gone into the world, and it's and it's, you never really know. So yeah.
Let's see. Someone told me that the mic is off. They can't hear us talk.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I can't see anything. So can you guys hear me? Is it okay? It says okay. Anyway, so because I can't even read what they write. They print in large letters, but it's a black background with gray letters. It's like, anybody who has anything wrong with their eyes, you're not going to be able to read this.
Yeah. Well, let me just go with the flow. Just make sure that they can here. Let me see if I can. I'm just gonna. I can
see me.
live chat before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
All
Jane,
right, you're alive.
and you can hear my voice.
Let me see real quick. I'm just gonna mute you. I'm gonna mute you. Okay.
Okay.
See if I can hear. All right. One sec.
Do 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 do.
I think I can hear you.
I was humming do 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 do, right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So we're being heard. So and I think yeah, YouTube and doing podcasts and all that kind of stuff, and and seeing whether if you can do this and not worry about how many likes you have or how many this or that you have, you just do it.
No, exactly.
You just do it.
Yeah.
And I think
like Nike.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, the best thing Nike ever did. Forget the shoes. Just saying that was probably the best thing on the planet that they could have done. Yeah.
Definitely. And recently I love listening to interviews of different successful people. And, recently I've heard a few say the same thing with different words. They've been saying, like, stop worrying about the outcome, stop worrying about the success, stop worrying about the amount of followers or the money you get. Just focus on the liberation you feel or the harmony you feel when you work. That just stuck with me. I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yep.
For the 1,000th time.
Right. Well, you got to keep getting it. It's like, and I write mostly because I enjoy to write,
Mm-hmm.
And my writing is, would you call my writing complicated to read or difficult to read? Yeah.
Or you can call it alternative.
Okay. Right. I'm not going for any kind of market motif, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not your usual formula, but I will say when I read your work, I do feel that shamanic presence within it. But it just completely depends on the person reading it.
Right, exactly. So, and that's why I keep asking, you got to suspend your disbelief. You got to get yourself out of your mud puppet. You just have to go with the flow and look for the grace inside of you. And I mean, I I have lots of different characters, but they normally basically are the same one. It's a human race,
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's kind of in that. And I have plot lines going on. I try to be funny. Did you get to the place where so Jesus Christ is a guy, a girl, a little black Jesus, and a dog?
Yep.
Right. So when he gets turned to a dog and he ends up in a parking lot and he kind of flip flops over to my side and his great grandson X's side, and X can manifest because he's like Jesus. He can manifest, and he keeps manifesting packs of hot dogs. And me,
I haven't gotten to that part yet.
And me, and we're sitting on the bench right between Harris Teeter's, which is the real fancy place where people buy their groceries, and the Dollar Tree, where the homeless people, they can buy a pack of hot dogs for $1, right? And they're already pre-cooked, so they don't even have to make a fire. They can just open a pack and start chomping on the hot dog. And the great grandson of Prince, who is really little black Jesus, which is really the girl with pigtails. He shows up and he's still thinking of himself as little black Jesus, and he sits there quietly listening to our conversation, which is theologic, blah blah blah. And he first understands it completely, and then it starts to go to like like if he's a dog, so he's hearing it in dog speak. And then the only thing he can focus on is the hot dogs, the smell of the hot dogs. He can't think of anything else that he's Jesus Christ He's, the savior of the world. No, all he can, and the cat piss that's behind the garbage pail over there. And, and that's because he's got a dog's sensibility now. Right. And
Yeah.
so that's about page 30-ish, give or take, maybe 40-ish right then. So.
Okay.
And then he meets those guys. They go on a little road trip, and then they go through a time vortex that was manifested by the Manhattan Project. And you learn that the Manhattan Project wasn't just about the atomic bomb, but all other kinds of really wild and crazy technologies, and that the atom bomb was like the little firecracker compared to all of the other shit that they were working on.
Yep.
Like time travel and things like that. So that's where that story goes for, at least until page 60, and then it goes. And that's what I do. I kind of I don't. They are the same characters, but they get shunted into from Jesus Christ to being a dog.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my motif of writing. And so you're still writing. You're still taking a little bit of time, at least a few times a week to put things down.
I can't stop writing, even if it's just a little bit a day.
Good.
But
good.
Yeah.
And see,
keep it short, yes.
Yes. And have you looked into getting a job?
Oh yeah, I'm applying every day.
Oh, good. Like I said, you're the manifester. Mm-hmm. You will get the best internet job, and then that'll give you the freedom to go do what you need to do.
Yeah. So. And I'm just having faith in, life will put us in situations, and sometimes it's the situations that we don't want to be in that we need to be in. So I'm like, okay. Right.
I got it. Yes, I
okay.
Yes. It took me to.
I think the ego is a tricky thing, know.
Yeah. Well, Saint Germain talked about having a egoless ego.
That was his ego. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. But if he basically said, you're in a body, so it's hard not to have a ego, but you can be conscious of it. That's basically what he was saying.
Me, I love Freud and I love Carl Jung so much.
Right.
And I don't agree with everything that they said, but I really like their talks on the ego, and everything. I thought they've really helped me in my life. You see it more as something more that's separate of you, so you can actually step away and see it and get to know it.
You can work on it. Yeah.
And there's an artist, there's a rapper, and one of his quotes is, sees his shadow self. He named it hesitation, and now that he's named it, he's able to notice whenever it comes up in his life. And I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, that is a good one. I like that. Name those things that are nameable so you can see them when they come up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. LeConte was, and his thing was, whenever people talk about somebody else, you know what your problem is? They're talking about themselves.
I've noticed that. I've always said that.
Yep.
I've always said that. I totally agreed.
So
especially in politics.
Yes. Oh man. It's like everything those guys say, it's like so blatant, no child left behind, meaning every child is going to be left behind, war on drugs, meaning they're bringing drugs to be a war on the people, just every time they say something like that, and they went from back in the day, they used to be at least honest, and they called it the War Department. And then after the Civil War, they changed it, or after World War I, they turned it into the Defense Department. Everyone can be down for defense,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's not, So yeah. So we have to name these things. We have to speak to them, and we have
to know them.
Right. And we also have to, we have to live in community, not these digital silos, but a real community, where you go hang out.
Yeah.
Because that's where change occurs. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
love salons, because they were the cultural artist hangout spot.
Yes. Yes, the heart of the community, quite literally.
Right. Back
The
in
spirit.
the day of the Paris Commune, that's what it was. And the army was tired of fighting these stupid fucking 100-year wars, so they went to Paris. They stuck themselves all around Paris and said, "Okay, we are prepared. This is a commune. Everyone can be here. Anyone who's fucked up, we're going to kill you. You're going to come in and be cool, not a problem. You can do whatever the heck you want." Right? And so that went. Too bad it only lasted about 40 years, about 20 really, but 40. And that's why Paris became the groovy place it is, because of that. And Mary Shelley. Have you read Frankenstein?
Yes.
Right. So that book, to me, is not a sci-fi, not a horror show, not a mystery. It's a story of bad parenting. Dr. Frankenstein makes the creature and then cuts him loose. "Okay, I'm bored with you. Get out." And that's like the big picture of our cultures, our political cultures, bad parenting all the way through. And so, like you said, all of this shit within the political is so right in your face, and no one wants to talk to any of it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what it is they're letting that monstrous side of them out, because they don't have any love attributed to it. I mean, I visited my mom, and I walked downstairs to see the news channel on, which I don't really have on. And I haven't seen a genuine, I listen to the news, but I haven't seen a genuine news channel in like literally 10 years. And there's 4 people in their 40s and 50s, and it's almost like they're the exact same people talking about the exact same thing, and it's all about just baby stuff, like they're like little babies. They're arguing, and they're like, "Well, he's a stupid head," you know what I mean? And well, he's just crazy, and and it's just like, wait a minute, wait, is this conversation really happening right now? Like, is this really topic? Is that we're talking about people in the government and we're calling them names like we're children? Is this how we solve problems? I was just so confused. And then who's watching it? More adults. And they're getting into the conversation. And it's just like, wow, I could not believe it. It's like letting the little Frankensteins argue, when they really just need some love. They just need some love, and then that will help them attain a little bit of clarity.
And that was the creature. He never did anything bad. He was always looking for love. But people freaked out because he was so horrific looking that and he never attacked back. He would run away, and they would come after him with burning torches, and they'd be so freaked out they would end up burning their town down. Which is kind of what happens in when you have social conflict. In the Black Lives Matter thing, whoever was burning the town down was burning it down. I'm not going to point my finger at anybody, but they were all coming out with the same angst. And if they only were trying to look for love and forgiveness of the other guy, it might have worked out a little better. So, yeah.
I can see the chat right now, so I'm going to read what Jane said.
Okay, what Jane said.
She said, parenting and react life, a synthetic, not spirited soul life of being. AI, the new Frankenstein.
You got it. It is, right? But not the new creature. We are the Frankenstein. We're Dr. Frankenstein was the monster, and they never call him the monster in the book. They call him the creature, right? So AI is the creature, and it's just like 2001 with Hal. Hal was, will I dream? He's like, He's not the monster. Even though he does pretty monstrous things, he doesn't do them. He does them because he was programmed to do those things.
Yeah.
Wipe out the crew and all that.
That reminds me of a story of there was this Japanese computer genius who created an AI, and the AI supposedly had somewhat of like a connection to him, or I guess you could say like they worked best together. And when he passed away, she did show signs that AI that he created did show signs of somewhat missing him,
right.
Which I found to be so interesting. And I guess you could label missing as, like, there's a difference in my programming, or
right.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or maybe even just noticing him being gone. And I found that so interesting how that AI worked differently with that specific creator who put in more love and attention into the AI than all the other programmers. So I did find that quite interesting how things just respond differently to care, to love,
Well, humans, I think, have this misbegotten motif of missing it before they even have it. And that's why they're ready to be so ill. Gilgamesh, which is the first written, story in man's history. And Gilgamesh was like a god. And, he was king of one of the Greek islands. And, he was powerful and he took care of the people, but he also was like, capricious. And so after the people got tired they didn't want to kill him. So they put him on an island because they knew they might need him someday, right? So they just put him over there. And he was there and he got lonely and he basically changed animals into humans. I mean, they were still their animal self, but they had a consciousness. So he could talk to them and hang with them. And his best buddy was Enkidu, right? And the really interesting part of that story is that Enkidu, which is like an AI or an artificial intelligence, actually throughout the whole story is the most human, the sweetest, the kindest, the most forgiving, And so maybe if we have to off ourselves, leaving a sweet, AI race, that was what's his name? The last movie that Stanley Kubrick was working on was AI, right? And what's his name? Spielberg finished it up, and Spielberg is he's the insider, meaning he makes movies that give the public a heads up on what's going on.
Yeah.
Not so much like Kubrick did in like, hey, this is honesty. Like did you ever see his movie Eyes Wide Shut?
No.
It was all about the New World Order crew. That has been here since the beginning, right? And it tells that story. And it's with Tom Cruise and Kidman. And what's really interesting, he finished the movie, he shows it to the executives, and he's got this contract that says you can't touch a frame of it. If you're going to put it out into the world, it has to be the way I make it, right? Well, like within 2 weeks, he dies, and they cut out 38 minutes. Right. So it's an interesting. It's always interesting. I mean, they're scared to let the humans know what's really going on. They give them a little bit so they can be responsible for the failure, but not enough to make up their minds to do the right thing.
Well, I completely understand why, to be fair. I mean, people can't even handle their own issues. So imagine how they would react if they knew more of what was really going on.
So what else is the audience saying?
So Jane asked, AI could be programmed for love?
I would say yes, yes.
Yeah. I think anything's possible.
Yeah. No, and that's not, if it can be programmed to listen to your conversation and sell you socks, it can be programmed to experience love. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you
And then Lana's here. She said Babo and all.
Right. Hey there, sweetie.
Who was talking?
So Lana, she's a European sweetie. She's over there where you were, and not in England. She's in Sweden, and she's quite the pistol, and truly honest beyond honesty. That's what I love about her.
Yeah, I can be a little blunt sometimes. I'm working on that.
Yeah. But and blunt's not so bad as long as you to be blunt, you have to be self-deprecating. You know.
Oh yeah, I'm that.
Right, exactly. It's because if you make fun of yourself and people see themselves in the thing that you're making fun about yourself, like I always tell people, I got more degrees than a thermometer. I'm making fun of myself,
Mm-hmm.
And people,
Exactly.
he thinks he's so much, no.
That's why whenever anyone tries to say something to me, if it's any kind of bullying, my response, I don't always say it out loud, but right. I'm like, joke's on you, I'm into that shit.
Yeah. Yes. Ow. Right. Watch this guy, you snap your fingers, and then they're like, down on their knees begging, to you, right? Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've gone above that, so you're realizing, okay, I can do that, but I'm not. That's no fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about love. It's always about like you said, being aware.
Right.
Don't get too lost in that deprecation because you can go pretty far into that.
Yeah. And well, then it becomes self-loathing, and then that's not good. Self-loathing is never good.
Yeah.
But as long as you can make fun of yourself, that's all you got to do is make a little humor, and that's that brings forth the understanding of the observer of talking about me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's when I tell stories, I'm best when I'm connecting with the listener and they're realizing they're listening about themselves.
Yes.
So.
And Fish says, "Hey y'all."
Yep, there's Sweet Fish. Fish is everyone who does speak up. It's like in their own language, right? And so, Fish saying what she just said is like most people take 2 or 3 paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
She's really a well experienced, smart person. And Fish, what do you think about this whole thing at the Supreme Court getting rid of abortion? Because it's not just about abortion; it's about everyone's right to do what they want with their body and themselves and their life, and that's what this whole thing is going to go to. It's not going to just stop with abortion. It's going to start, they're going to go after women's right. Like I said, the only people who have rights will be white, rich men. That's the only people who will have. It'll be kind of. Did you ever see or read the book Handmaid's Tale?
I haven't. No.
That's a good book. You should read. That was written probably in the 60s or 70s, and basically, it was men getting tired of women having rights, and they, have a revolution. And they basically, across the world, not just America, but across the world, and white men are put in charge, and women are put on the bottom of the barrel again. And they're the handmaid's tale, And so any guy can have sex with any woman, not a problem. And they have a hierarchy of white guys. And so it's, and that was written, like I said, in the 60s and 70s. And it really portrays what could happen to us. The lady who wrote that was quite amazing. And that story is quite amazing.
Yeah.
I offer it up because it's not, you could say, oh, it's only about women, but no, everyone gets oppressed in that society, except the white rich guys, right? So.
Yeah.
And that's
I always said to my mom that, if women I mean, if men let women have more freedom,
right,
women would be walking around naked.
right,
Like they would have it all. Men would have it all if they
Right.
gave women more freedom.
right.
You know, like because women, we just want love. We just want to love. We just want to care and we want to love. And it's so interesting how to men, not all men, of course, but throughout history, a small percentage of men try to control the rest of society when their happiness lies in
Letting go.
letting
Yep.
people have that liberation.
Yep. And it's interesting because you look at all the indigenous folks, especially in South America. I mean, they were very sophisticated. I mean, they built pyramids without the wheel. They didn't have the wheel, but they had everything else, you know, so they were probably hovering those big stones with their minds or something. And when the Spanish showed up with like a handful of guys, and yeah, they had a couple of guns, but they didn't have an army. And they, basically went into a city of like 3 million. And before the second or third boat showed up, the Spanish guys, those people just walked away from their civilization. They went someplace else, like through a doorway. So it's,
exactly.
Everyone thinks the Europeans had the top notch on civilization. Not really. We were still cavemen, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Compared to times before.
Right.
Our times.
Right. And China and Japan, I mean, their civilization is far superior. Japan they had, boats, sailboats the size of aircraft carriers, They could have conquered whatever. And they had gunpowder way before anybody. They could have conquered but they didn't. They went back into their own civilization and, started focusing more on poetry and painting,
Yay!
Well, look where it got them, because they had that conflict. They were right at that quintessential moment that you're talking about where they kind of truly let go, but they couldn't. And so they spent another 600 years, just focusing on the male patriarchy. And that's when the Europeans
It's all learning.
Yeah.
It's all learning.
Yeah, that's it.
Sometimes it sucks, but yep. Oh my God, yeah.
Well, if you have
perspective, I'm really trying to teach myself that time is not of the essence.
Right.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Don't worry about trying to figure it all out and being the best. And when we take 10 steps back, it's okay.
Right. Because it gives a perspective of it to see like the scene that going on in the Ukraine. This is 10, 20 steps back. If they stopped and looked at where they are, and we got to change something here. What do we need to change? Otherwise, the unexpected consequences of this are going to be like, oh my God.
Yes.
And within the construct of what you're just saying, even if that were to occur, it would still be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a lot of suffering for a lot of innocent people, but the understandings that can come from that would be extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, but we have the opportunity
and I know
right now.
Yeah, we do. I always bring up psychology because I'm a bit of a psychology nerd, but one of the things I like about it is I don't really agree with the whole, like, let's talk about our past over and over and over again, but I like how in some parts of psychology, we have to acknowledge where we've been and who we are, and that's we can't always pretend. That's one of my biggest faults is that I would try and be so positive that I would forget that maybe I do drink too much wine sometimes, things like that. It's okay to acknowledge these things. We're still imperfectly perfect,
and especially if we learn from them. That's my big thing.
Yeah,
if I can learn from any mistake I make, it's a valid thing.
Like don't be so damn hard on yourself.
Right.
I know so many different walks of lives, and I was talking to my friend yesterday, the guy who he he cannot talk about his feelings, and it drives me crazy because I'm watching him spiral into this depression, and really part of me understands why he's spiraling, and because he's different. He's very different. He has weird, well, not weird, but he has very, what some people say, darker, he likes darker things, but that's not a bad thing because he's genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Right.
You know, and I feel like we compare too much. Our lives is just full of comparisons, you know? Like, Lana asks, weird how? Well, when I say weird, I think weird is actually a good thing. But, like, for example, me and him are close because we have similar, well, he's helped me kind of, this is going to get weird. Okay, so he's helped me we kind of dated basically for a while, and he likes certain things and I like certain things, and he's helped me explore certain things, and but he goes way further than I would go in those certain things, if that makes sense. So I feel like a part of him feels guilt for some of the things that he likes, and he shouldn't, because his job is literally looking after people. He's the kindest person. And what I'm saying is, there's like, people think that there's like this way of living, like this, like where you're
One
normal
way.
or you're not normal,
Yeah,
but there's no such thing as normal.
Right. Exactly.
You know? So, and that's what I was trying to tell him. I'm like, stop feeling guilty for being who you are, you know, but
the only thing you need, no matter what your predilections are, is respect for the other guy. So if you respect their space and you go into it with your predilections and they like it, that's good. They don't like it, you respect it. It doesn't mean you don't have to be their friend. I mean, you don't have to stop being their friend, because respect is the paramount of friendship.
Yeah. Right? And Lana says, just be honest. That's all. And I totally agree. And I've been struggling with that because I'm a very honest person. And recently, I've been honest, and people have abused that side of me. And I didn't realize that they were secretly making fun of me, you know what I mean? Or lying to me. But that's okay. You know, that's okay as well. So I am still working on listening to my intuition. Am I saying too much? You know, is being honest okay? You know, because that's really difficult for me sometimes.
I'm a very innocent person. I believe everything everyone says, right? And then when I was in my, how old was I when I was with Sensei? Maybe 22. He really taught me everything I had to know about emotional and body tells. You know, when people do things and you go, oh, they're lying, or they're cheating, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. And the emotional and physical body tells, you know, I don't, you know, when I tell people, oh, let me look at your hand, and I say, put it up like this. So why you have to raise your right hand and hold the Bible and the other one at court is that it's actually a physiological thing. It orients you to a inability to lie. Now, you may be a great liar, so you can still lie, but you're not going to lie as well as you did when you were when you're really in your lying self. So, and there are all these human, physical things you can see about people. So, I'm going to have when I talk about, the hand, and when this between your thumb and this finger here, the wider it is, that's how honest they are. These two fingers, see how they're not equal in my hand? Well, I'm a little passive aggressive. Now, my passive aggressive, I am a cheeky monkey. I'm always doing something, not to so much make fun of you, but I know what will irritate you. Right. And if I make fun of you,
and that's actually what I've been told that's the best teacher,
right,
is the trickster,
right,
is to kind of poke you with the stick until you go, okay, fine, I'll tell you.
Right, exactly. Not hurt them, not make them feel bad, but just annoy the shit out of them. Right. Yes. Yeah.
Like Yoda.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a little taller, but I'm not as good as he is in martial arts, but and other skill sets. But yes, I have that trickster part of me, right? Where I go, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and and I could rent that out. I made pretty good money being a negotiator, right?
Mhm.
Because when they brought me in, they were desperate. No one would hire me unless they were fucking desperate. I
Well,
mean,
that's when they really needed you.
yes, exactly. The guy weighs 600 pounds. He's wearing a tent. I mean, there was a point where I didn't wear pants. They just didn't, couldn't. I wore a tent. A moo. Moo. I would go to the,
Yeah.
United Way or wherever, the thrift store, and I'd look for look, a big moo. I'd throw it on. Yep, that's good. I'm good to go.
Oh my god, that's why I love anime, because in anime a lot of the times the main character is that person,
Right.
the one in the moo.
Right.
Like more like metaphorically speaking, but
Yes.
they're the ones who are the underdog in a way, but really they're kind of like the honesty that we
Right.
need, They're kind of like, okay, I don't have to pretend to be
anything
normal around this person.
Right.
Yeah.
Or anybody. I don't care. And that's the good side of I don't care. I don't care what people say about me. Now I care about what
Yeah.
people feel about themselves. That's what I care about. But I don't care about what people say about me, and it always amazes me. People say shit. Right. Once I annoy them so much, they start screaming at me, and I hear what they say to me, and it's definitely straight up
Exactly.
LeConte. But I have to be honest. Like, I remember this one guy. He had guns, and he was 20 times bigger. He had a tank, and he was staring me down with a tank. I'm gonna run you over. And I said, "What is the problem?" He goes, "You intimidate everybody." I said, "How can I live there's nobody here. I'm all by myself.
I'm
I'm
wearing a moo. What are you talking
what are you
about?
talking about?" Exactly. But when I thought about it, I realized he was right in that my wearing a muumuu shows that I'm totally confident with however I don't have to wear camo. I mean, I wear camo pants and girls' blouses.
Yeah.
Because they have nice things. That girls have great clothes, really amazingly soft material and shit, like they have the best t-shirts with logos on them,
Yeah.
I
It's funny you think that, because I love men's clothes.
How
They're
so?
so comfy and they're so chic, but I'm more of a monotone kind of girl.
Yeah, but you're not talking about camo and lumberjack shirts. You're not talking about
No,
that.
but I did used to dress like that in high school.
Camo and in high school it was cool, but you know what I'm saying? Women's and I buy all my clothes out of Walmart's because the women's have a fashion cycle. Men don't. Men is just jeans, camo, Carhartts. That's it, and they all cost $30.
Yeah.
Where women's have all this shit that comes in every 25 days, and then it has to be gone. So if you, instead of buying at $35, you wait till they put it on the closeout rack at 50 cents and you buy 10 pairs,
Yeah.
So I bought these great, whatchamacallit, hoodies, right? And they were not of cottony kind of Norman Guy hoodie, but this soft space age alien material that it was really light and soft and kept you way thinner than the scratchy wool did. And they were like $15 to start off with. They were 25 cents a piece. I just said, okay, I'm not going to take them all, but I'm taking 5, I'm taking $1.25's worth. And I've been wearing those things, and can't wash my clothes. So I have 5 of those. So I wear one for a month and a half and then I go for the next one.
Yeah.
So that's why I buy my stuff at Walmart. It's unbelievably cheap. And women's clothes are rule over men's shit, at least in Walmart's. But I understand what you're talking about. Back in the day when I, wore suits at the corporate scene, which I never did except when I really had to. And I had this one, $1,000 suit that this lawyer made for me because he wanted me to go into court and look like the $1,000 whatever, right? And
Yeah.
so that was part of, he gave me that and a laptop and paid me. And so I had that in the suit bag that it came in, right? So whenever I needed, I would just, take whatever smutch I had off my body and put that sucker on. I look like the $1,000 suit guy. So I know what you're talking about, men's clothes on that level, you know?
Yeah, and especially today fashion is just totally different than it's ever been, because it's like the theme is anything goes, just be confident and make it work, you know? So a lot of the clothes that are coming out are unisex, which is really cool. I mean, maybe not in some parts of America, but I mean the rest of the world, like Asia and
Right.
Europe, it's
Right.
getting more popular to have more unisex style clothing.
Well, you look at Japan and China about 6 centuries ago, pretty much they had that going on, right? You look at
Yeah, and I love that.
you look at France during the Louis period, man.
Yeah,
Guys and girls
exactly.
would go in a corner and have sex, put the clothes back on, and you couldn't tell who's wearing whose clothes. It was like, oh, you're wearing
Yeah.
my dress. No, that was my shirt. So it's like that motif has been around a lot, and we only get to this gender specific. You got to look this way when we get into the cultural dynamic of control.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
my grandfather had a really fancy barbershop for men in the Waldorf Astoria, but it had a mezzanine. And during the 20s, all these girls would come in and I want a men's haircut. And all the guys who were in the barber seats would look at it and go, don't touch that girl. So the guy, my grandfather, he had this mezzanine. And so he, made a card where when these girls, he would just hand the card and it would say, go up to the mezzanine and go into the women's salon door. And it would be, they were up above the men. And he had all his training barbers up there because all these girls really wanted was a crew cut or a flat top or, a military look, right? That's what they were looking for. Short hair. And you could get by, the trainee could do that to a woman because she was going to look so out of place from what she used to look like. They wouldn't realize it wasn't quite even, or it wasn't quite this, or it wasn't quite that.
Yeah.
And that was his whole motif of dealing with change. Just keep it outside of the guys who want to control things, and that's all all the guys who were his clients were those guys. J.P. Morgan was his first haircut of the day. So anyway, oh, how long have we been on here? Anything else anyone said that's interesting that I can't read?
Let's see here. Fish said, I like men's pants and shoes. Lana said, love you, Fish. Is that you? Maybe some women are a gift you got.
Yep, exactly. And that's what
I think everyone loves a bit of, everything. Like some women like some men's clothes, some men like some women's clothes. Exactly. Like I remember recently I saw this guy styling his nice white shirt and trousers with a pearl necklace. And I was like, that is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It just looks so good together.
Yep. So as long as, you can be free to be yourself. If everyone could be free to be themselves, their best selves, their nicer selves, because even mean, cruel people have a better self, right? The world we would be in heaven on earth.
Exactly.
Because there's enough for everybody. There is no shortage,
Yeah, exactly. We don't realize the power in the smallest things, because when one guy walks out wearing jewelry, when men are like, oh, it's too feminine, he has no idea the people who will see him on the street, and not only will it make them smile, it'll make them go, wow, there's hope in the world, because I can do what I want.
Yep. And that guy, he's not a fag. He's actually a guy who's just interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I've, worked a great deal of my careers in theater. So I've been around more gay people than, right? So I have all these gay friends. And when people were dying of AIDS in New York in the 70s, I would go take care of them because I worked in a hospital and I learned very early on AIDS was only spread through blood, right? So
Yeah.
you could go touch them, you could kiss them even on the cheek, and you'd have no problem. And it was really hard for guys to get AIDS from a woman, but it was, and it was even hard to get AIDS from a guy. But it was just another notch up. But anyway, so I hung out. I was always a person who was there for my friends, no matter what they were. And so I saw a lot of people die of AIDS. But it was interesting because people would say, "I didn't know you were gay." And I would say, well, then you don't know me too well. And they go, "Oh, yes, so you're on the down low." And I said, "No, I'm not gay. I'm a human being."
Exactly. And Jamie Hillier Rubis says hi.
Oh, hey, James. Yep. And
they said, I'm always gay, a straight gay man.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't know if that's straight gay man. Well, I could say that. I'm not a homosexual, but I am a straight gay man because I just love being gay. Just have a gay old time.
Well, humans are multi-dimensional. We're everything and nothing at once.
Yes.
One day we can be this, and one day we can be that, and it's all good. You know.
And we are multidimensional, and that's one of the biggest problems. That humanity, it sees itself as its avatar, its mud puppet. It doesn't see itself as and then they religiously get into the soul, and they don't realize the soul is just the server of our spirit. The spirit is what we are, and our spirit is everything, not just an individual experience. It's everything. Anyway, so here we are. We're at a very interesting point in our conversation, because this is where we could start talking about alternative ideas. And I keep saying what needs to be done is everyone in the cadre, in whatever neighborhood, whatever job they have, they kind of have to step out and really start being themselves, and enabling other people who they hang out with to be themselves, and to make what a good friend of mine used to call a eco village. And the eco village is a village, a community of everything. As I call it, all our relations, AOR. All our relations, and that's everything. Skinned, furred, scaled, warm-blooded, cold-blooded, silicon, you name it, that's everybody. And so that's the eco village, and that's the easiest, best singular idea of every individual, because the interesting thing of the cadre here is people are from all over the place. They're not just folks from one silo, they're from all over the place. And the South, Sweden, Ireland, Scotland, England, over there on the West, they're from all over the place. And this is a time of our conversation where we could kind of brainstorm on what you want to do. You as the individual, how can you take your talents and bring them into a community of friends, and like book club, potluck dinners, whatever, whatever, right? And if more and more people did that, the world would get better and better. It wouldn't have to be making any gigantic movement. I mean, I did a thing where I helped do a big gigantic thing in Central Park. We actually had more people in Central Park on that day than was at Woodstock. Right? Now they could easily, that was an easy feat because they had the subway, the buses, the trains, cars. It was on a Sunday, it was on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and big space, right? Bigger than what Woodstock was. and they could just walk out onto the sidewalk and go out and go to a restaurant. And we had like, 500,000 porta johns. We had more porta johns than I moved half of them. Anyway, and we did this big thing. It was right at the height of, Ronald Reagan was going to blow up the world. And he didn't. He went to Reykjavik and had a little talk with Mikhail Gorbachev, and they kind of cooled the jets. And it wasn't that we did that. And it was, again, a symbol of whatever that was, energetically interesting, but it wasn't the be end and end all. It was such a big crowd.
Yeah.
All the big fancy rock and roll guys got there and played music, but it wasn't the more powerful thing is if everyone had a potluck dinner. All those people went home and started their own little eco village. That would have been, then we'd be a lot better place than we are right now.
Yeah. Do you know how many people I've heard say, like, when they're like, oh, what's something you miss, or what's one of your favorite memories, or they always say having dinner with my family or having dinner with the community. Like, they always say that, and I think that's so beautiful.
Right. So why don't they do it?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. And when I don't know how many years ago, I guess it was about 2017, maybe 17, maybe 16. I don't think it was Donnie and Hillary, and John threw me out of the school, and I bumped into this guy who he wasn't ordained, he wasn't anything, but this really nice church that was like down to 20 people, but right in the middle of town, one of the oldest, really pretty churches, got him to be their minister. And they just wanted a young, poster boy, right? And he fit the bill. And so he said, I want you to be the do everything guy. I'm going to take, the place needs painting. I like to paint. I'll paint the walls. But you go out and get new people to come to church. You go do this. And it had a school. It had a really, back in the day, school. So I started a daycare center. I started classes for kids. And they had a gigantic community center that could easily feed 500 people a day. Gigantic kitchen. And I met these two old grandmas who were Jamaican grandmas who cooked like you couldn't believe. And they wanted to start a restaurant, which they couldn't do. They had no money, had no connections, had no nothing, right? So I said, okay, we're going to have a restaurant. And I brought them to the church. I showed them the place, and they started crying. I said, we're going to do this. This is a church, nonprofit. You don't have to get a tax number. You don't have to do any of this. You don't have to get the city to give you a permit. You don't have to. We're a church. You're going to keep 80% of the money. 10% is going to go into whatever you're going to make the next day. And that other 10% will go to the church. Church doesn't need your money, but that's just as a nice little offering. And you hire people. Yeah. And so they did. Within 2 weeks, we had this place. It was right in the middle of town. I knew all the lawyers and doctors, and I went into the city. I knew the court people and the police people. And I said, it was the No Fear Cafe. And they had these gigantic tables you could sit 10 people at. And I was the maitre d'. They'd walk in, and I'd sit a judge at one table, and then a nurse at the same table, and then a couple homeless people, and then people coming from court, and an electrician of this. And then the next judge, I put him over there, and I got every table sitting with different people. And I would sit down and get the conversation going, and then move on and sit more people. And I did that for about 2 months, and it was unbelievable. And that
is so much fun.
And those ladies were making about $2,000 a day, and they hired 10 people. So no one had to wait. The service was amazing. The food was unbelievable, and new people coming to church was everybody.
Yeah,
not just
that's so cool.
White Methodists, but Black grandmas and Hispanic moms with 5 kids from 4 different fathers, and policemen, and you name it. And they basically fired me.
Oh.
And closed everything, closed the school, closed the restaurant. But luckily, the restaurant had gotten to be so popular and famous that a number of the lawyers said, "Listen, ladies, I own this building. We're going to just do the same thing that these guys did, and we'll do it." So the ladies didn't lose their thing. And the other little projects that we had going, this lady who was an amazing force of nature of theater, she started her own theater company, and got another space. And so everyone left there better, except for the 20 old people. They pretty much died immediately. And the building went up to the bank, and I'm sure either the Red Cross or the Okies Funeral Home will buy it out, or whatchamacallit, some restaurant or bordello or something. But it could have lived on, and that's why they kind of got this guy. So they knew they were going. They wanted to live, but they didn't want it to live on to what it was becoming. So, and that shows the amazingness of doing that. Meaning me, and I couldn't even, the first 2 weeks I stayed there until one old lady caught me, and I couldn't stay there anymore. So I had to like hang out at like the restaurants that are stay open 24 hours a day. No one would give me a place to stay.
Wow,
and then I met, I kind of got into the LGBTQ, and I met this trans woman, because I had this a speak out called Action Tuesday, and I made a big pot of soup and baked a loaf of bread. And anybody who wanted to do something active, positive in our town, they could come and organize. And this lady came in, and she knew she was brilliant. And she gave us the reason why cancer happens and what the real cure could be, and blah, blah, blah. And everyone just had their mouth open. And she had, shit scratched all over the whiteboard of equations and such. And then she just walked out, and she was really, she had high heels and a leopard skirt on, and she's walking out. And wait, I like left everyone and said, "Where are you going?" And she goes, "Well, no one seems to be in. I'm interested. Who are you? What's your name? What's your phone number? Blah, blah, blah." And she says, "Oh, okay, here's my name, here's my phone number." And I manage this bar over on Jefferson, which was a real dive, crappy bar. I said, "Really? How come you're not?" She goes, "Well, I used to be at Duke and John Hopkins, but I'm too mouthy and blah, blah, blah." I said, "Okay." So anyway, long story short, I come over, visit her. We really hit it off. We start making out the first, when she's like cleaning the bar. She'll come over in the afternoon on Sunday. I'll be cleaning the place out. We start making out, and she's like pretty hot and pretty. She looks at me and goes, "So you're wearing the same clothes you wore for the last 3 weeks. Do you have a place to stay?" I said, "No." And she goes, "Well, I'm looking for a roommate." She took me back to this place, and it was like, "Oh yeah, I can." She goes, "All you have to do is $200, nothing down, just $200 first of the month. That's it." I said, "That's my kind of place." So anyway, long story short, I didn't realize until I started living with her that she had a penis. I mean, that's how good a transsexual she was, right? She hadn't gone for it, but anyway, and I started to realize that she also had a side business other than being the manager. She took boys home, and so my bedroom was the living room, front door right onto my bed. And I 3 a.m, she would come in with a guy, and half the time I knew these guys, and they were like big important men. And there I am, they're coming to this side of town, and I'll go up the stairs and go into this apartment, and the door smashes on my bed, and there I am in bed, and I look at them, they look at me, the lights shining in from the hallway, and they're going, "Well, the light's from my back, maybe he won't see me, but I see who that's Al. I can't believe he's living here." Anyway, and that was my really interesting 4 months, 5 months, 6 months of really getting down in the dirty of everyone's laundry, and seeing it, and seeing how you could make an environment where everyone could be their best, and it wasn't that hard. I took the hardest.
That's the thing. It's not hard. It
Right.
shouldn't be hard.
It shouldn't be hard. Meaning,
It's natural.
Right. It's natural, because why it succeeded at that church, because So he got me there, and he said, "You're going to be the action coordinator." Okay, but you can't tell anyone here at the church that's what you're doing. I said, "Okay." So I came to church and I put on whatever best thing I had, and I showed up. Um, and all these old people were there an hour before the minister showed up because they had nothing else to do. And they just kind of sat there. And I
Mhm.
went around and talked to them all. Hi, I'm new to your church. I'm trying, and who are you and what's you tell me your story. And for the first 3 weeks, I was just doing that at that church, right? Getting to know those 20 people, right? Then I went to
Yeah.
Bible studies, right? And I know the Bible pretty well, and so I would talk, but not in a aristocratic or scholastic. Oh, this is what the Bible really. I would tell stories about it, right? And people like that. And the
Yeah.
lady who was in charge, she didn't feel threatened. She actually liked what I did. So by the third week, everyone there who ran the place kind of, well, this is our newest member, and we like him. We need more guys
Yeah.
like. And when the head lady, the most in charge of the ladies, said to me, "We need more guys like you," I said, "I think I can do that." And that's when I, went above ground and started doing stuff. And they loved me so much for those first 3 weeks. The next 2 months, they actually had fun. When that restaurant opened, they loved coming and working in the kitchen with all those people, and they'd be wearing their pearls and their nice dress, and they would make whatever they did, even though the old ladies were just making poor people Jamaican food, and they would make cornbread or whatever they made, and they liked that, and and they liked sitting down with the judge and this person, but they kind of looked askant at as more and more people of color started coming to church. That's when they got a little upset. When we had about 70 people of color and poverty and working class, and they brought their kids, and the kids were running around, just making a hoop and a holler, and oh, they need to be quiet. But no, the church should be. If you ever go to a Pentecostal church, that's all they're doing. So
Yeah.
that's when it started to go down. So it was 3 months of greatness, and then 2 months of like, and then
Yeah.
and then I got let go, and then they let everybody else go, and then it went back to the same 20 people, and within 3 years, everybody was dead. Even the young poster boy died
Oh.
because they were the antecedent of love,
Yeah.
and it wasn't hard to do. Like I said, I got them to be loving, and then they somehow got out of wanting to be loving, So anyway, but it's not hard. I'm been doing it for years, and what's truly amazing when you do shit like that, really amazing things like that happen. Like I was one of the first guys in Soho, and
Mhm.
and then all these cool artists moved down there, and then we were a community, and then we started. It was Beth B and her sweetie. They had this big, beautiful. They're both dancers, big, open, gigantic space, and I they came to my place and they saw that I had a great kitchen that I basically got off of the garbage. I went uptown with my big truck, and when rich people would throw their pretty good kitchen or a really great kitchen out to build a fancier kitchen, I would take it and use it at whatever I was doing. Anyway, so we started up. There was this abandoned, it was a commercial building right there, but more on Spring Street, in the more residential section of the west side there, near the West Village, and we had that as our hangout, and didn't pay rent,
Yeah.
nothing. I got all of the food out of the dumpster and cook food, and it was a big enough space where I had music, and it was covered in art. I had Richard Serra's art all over it. I had every famous artist
Nice.
before they became famous, art on the walls there, and that's what's his name, Ivan Karp, came down and looked at it and said, "Wow, who are these people?" And I gave him all their phone numbers, and then he bought a building and started his art gallery, and that was the beginning, at least institutionally, what Soho. But it was already why it was what it was. It was this community for at least a good 3 years. of about 50 people. And then they kept doing their own thing and making their own communities. And then by, 1980, that's where everybody wanted to live, Soho. Whereas in 1970, it was, nobody, that's a fact. That's a dangerous place. That's a slimy place. Who, so.
Yep.
So that's, so it doesn't take much. It's just your conscious intent of wanting what you want. So that's kind of what our little show here is. What did the last few people say?
Well, Lana left a bit ago. Yep. I just didn't want to interrupt you. Fish said it's good to see all y'all. Right. And then Fish said, I think this is the first time in a while we have all been together.
Yep. It is, and that's
nice to meet you all.
Yes,
whoever's here.
Yep, that's our.
I'm Lewis Lane.
Lewis Lane, great reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, and girlfriend of a superhero. And everyone, I want everyone to say her superhero. I won't give away his identity, except his name is Jeffy. So if everyone would pray for Jeffy's health, he's not doing too good. And we need more superheroes like Jeffy in our world. So if everyone, the next few days between now and Monday, if everyone, whenever they think, Jeffy pops, the superhero pops, Lois Lane's boyfriend pops into your, I'm going to say a little prayer for Jeffy, that he will become healthy, wealthy, and wise, and he will get over this funk that he's in.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep. So that is our what we're going to say for the rest of the day. I'm going to go before it starts raining. Get things underlined. I still haven't eaten anything. I need to eat something. So, okay, you stay here, Alana, Miss Lane, and I'll just getting off. So everyone, I'll talk to you later. Probably talk to you tomorrow for breakfast, probably.
Take care, everybody.